He had already bound the prince of demons in chains. He had already forced creatures older than the Bible itself to kneel, confess their names, and build his temple stone by stone. Wait, stop. Before you assume this is just another story about a powerful king and some demons, you need to know something. This is not the part of the story where Solomon wins. This is the part where the smartest man who ever lived hands the most dangerous creature on earth exactly what it's been waiting for. Willingly. With his own hands. Because he was certain nothing could ever touch him. And the worst part? He never even saw it happen. Let's go back to the beginning. To a sick boy, a stolen thumb, and a ring that should never have existed. For most of his life, Solomon was known as the wisest king who ever lived. He built temples. He wrote proverbs that are still quoted today. He ruled over a golden age of peace and wealth. But there is another version of Solomon, a version that almost never makes it into the children's Bible stories. A version where the king does not just pray to God, he commands armies of demons. He forces them to cut stone, carry water, and build his temple with their own hands. And one of those demons would eventually become part of a downfall no army, no enemy king, no rival ever managed to cause. He would help take everything from Solomon. Not his throne, something quieter, and in its own way, far worse. This is the story most people never hear. And it starts, strangely enough, with a young boy and his thumb. According to an ancient text known as the Testament of Solomon, one of the king's favorite workers came to him in distress. Every night, something invisible was draining him. A demon was stealing half his wages, eating his food, and at night, it would creep close and suck the life force out of him through his thumb while he slept. The boy was wasting away, thinner every day, paler every day, and no one could explain why. Solomon, troubled by what he heard, went to the temple and prayed. And according to the text, his prayer was answered in the strangest way possible. The Archangel Michael appeared and handed him a ring. Not a sword, not an army, a ring. But this was no ordinary piece of jewelry. This ring carried a seal with the power to bind and control demons. Anyone who wore it, or even threw it at a demon's chest, could force that demon into total submission. Solomon gave the ring to the suffering boy and told him exactly what to do. The next time the demon came for him, he was to throw the ring directly at its chest and speak Solomon's name aloud. That night, the demon came again, hungry as always. The boy did exactly as he was told, and the demon, the same creature that had been feeding on him in silence for weeks, froze instantly. Trapped, sealed, powerless. Its name was Orneus, and it was about to become the first domino in a chain reaction that would eventually expose an entire hidden world living underneath human reality. Solomon ordered Orneus brought before him in chains. And what happened next is where the story stops being a simple morality tale and becomes something closer to an interrogation file from another dimension. Solomon didn't just punish the demon, he questioned it. Who are you? Where do you come from? What do you do to people? What can stop you? One by one, the demons gave up their secrets, and what they revealed paints a picture of the ancient world that almost nobody talks about. A world absolutely saturated with invisible entities, each one assigned to a specific form of human suffering. Orneus confessed that he was connected to the stars, specifically tied to the sign of Aquarius. He preyed on people born under it, and he had a taste for tormenting young men. He could shapeshift, appearing sometimes as a winged creature, sometimes as something closer to a lion. And like many demons in this catalog, he had one very specific weakness: iron. Just the presence of cold iron was enough to make him recoil in fear. Solomon used that fear ruthlessly. He had the demon bound and sentenced to hard labor, cutting stone for the temple under construction, alongside human workers who had no idea they were sharing a work site with something that wasn't human at all. But Orneus wasn't useful only as a worker. He became the key that opened the door to something far bigger. Solomon ordered Orneus to summon his master, the prince of demons himself, Beelzebul. According to the legend, Beelzebul was no ordinary spirit. He was once an angel, one of the very first to fall from heaven in the Great Rebellion. Now he ruled over the lower ranks of the demonic world like a fallen general commanding a defeated army. When Solomon bound Beelzebul with the same ring, something remarkable happened. The prince of demons, terrified and humiliated, began to hand over his entire network. One by one, he called forward the demons under his command, and each one stepped forward to be questioned, bound, and put to work. This is where the story turns into something closer to an ancient case file of human fears given names and faces. There was Onoskelis, a demon who appeared as a strikingly beautiful woman, except for one detail that gave her away every time. Her legs ended in the hooves of a mule. She lured men in with beauty and left them with ruin. And then there was one demon whose story stands apart from all the others. A demon whose motive wasn't greed or hunger or chaos. His motive was love, or something that wore the mask of love. His name was Asmodeus. Long before he ever faced Solomon, Asmodeus appears in an older story, the Book of Tobit. There he is described as the king of demons, and his obsession is a woman named Sarah. Every time a man tried to marry her, Asmodeus killed him on their wedding night. Not out of random cruelty, out of jealousy. He wanted her for himself, and he made certain no human man would ever have her. By the time Asmodeus stands before Solomon, his reputation already precedes him. Solomon demands to know his origin, and the answer is unsettling in its own right. According to the legend, Asmodeus was the offspring of an angel and a human woman, a being born from the same forbidden union that produced other dangerous hybrids in ancient lore. Neither fully divine nor fully human, belonging nowhere. Maybe that's exactly what made him so destructive. A being caught permanently between two worlds, furious at both. Solomon learns that Asmodeus specializes in two things: destroying the beauty of young women and driving husbands and wives apart through jealousy and suspicion. Every shattered marriage, every poisoned relationship built on paranoia, the old texts whisper that his fingerprints might be somewhere in it. But even Asmodeus has a weakness. The angel Raphael reveals the method to drive him away. Burning the liver and gall of a particular fish, the smoke alone enough to make him flee. Solomon, amused by his own power, doesn't kill Asmodeus. He simply puts him to work. The demon who once destroyed marriages out of jealousy is now forced to mold clay into vessels for the most sacred building in the kingdom. For now, Asmodeus obeys. But obedience, especially forced obedience, has a way of waiting patiently for the right moment. As the demons kept coming, Solomon's collection grew stranger. Spirits tied to disease, to fevers, to nightmares that felt too real to be dreams, one for nearly every sign in the sky. The old text even claims these beings would fly close enough to glimpse the throne of God before falling back to earth exhausted, scattering across the night sky like falling stars. A strange detail, the idea that a shooting star was once explained as a demon collapsing back toward the world it tormented. Eventually, construction hit a wall no laborer, human or demon, could solve. A massive cornerstone needed to be set, and nothing could lift it. Solomon trapped a violent wind spirit inside a leather flask and forced it to cooperate with a demon from the Red Sea. Together, the two finally placed a stone. The temple, against every obstacle, was nearing completion. And Solomon, the man who had bound the prince of demons himself, believed he had finally tamed the darkness beneath the world. He was wrong. With the temple complete, Solomon should have been at the height of his power. Instead, according to the old legends, something inside him began to unravel. Years of total obedience had done something to him. Every demon he had ever questioned bowed its head. Every spirit he had ever bound did exactly as it was told. And slowly, without realizing it, Solomon stopped seeing his power as a gift he had been given. He started seeing it as something that simply belonged to him, permanently, unshakably, his by nature, not by grace. So one day, almost as a boast, he turned to Asmodeus, still bound, still working in chains, and asked him a question dripping with arrogance. What exactly makes demons so powerful if their own king can be kept locked up by a mortal man? Asmodeus didn't answer right away. According to the legend, he simply looked at Solomon for a long moment, the way a predator looks at something it is no longer afraid of. Then he spoke, calm, almost gentle, the way someone speaks when they already know how the conversation ends. He told Solomon that chains and rings were never the real reason he obeyed. He had simply been waiting for the one thing every captor eventually does: grow comfortable, grow certain, stop watching the door. Solomon laughed it off. He had the ring, he had the temple. He had defeated the prince of demons himself. What more proof did anyone need? But the strange thing about the text that records all of this is how it chooses to end. Not with a battle, not with a final demon overpowering the king, with something far quieter and, in its own way, far more disturbing. The temple was finished. The demons had been put to work, questioned, bound, and dismissed. Solomon, by every measure, had won. He returned to his palace as the undisputed master of two worlds, the human and the hidden. And it was there, away from the demons, away from the chains and the rings and the interrogations, that he met his real downfall. Not a creature with wings, a woman. Several women, in fact, foreign princesses brought into his court through alliance and politics, each one carrying her own gods from her own homeland. Solomon, the same king who had once forced the prince of demons to confess his every secret, found himself unable to refuse the quiet requests of the people he loved. A shrine here, an altar there. Small things at first, gestures of respect toward a wife's homeland. According to the text, it ended with Solomon himself standing before foreign idols, the same king who had built God's own temple, now offering sacrifice to gods that were never his. The spirit that had once guided him, the text says plainly, simply withdrew. No demon forced his hand. No prince of darkness tricked him with a clever question. He did it slowly, willingly, one small concession at a time, the same way water erodes stone, given enough years and enough patience. What makes this ending so unsettling almost 2,000 years later isn't really the demons. It's the structure underneath the story. A man gains total control over forces stronger than himself. He spends years proving that nothing supernatural can outwit him. And the very thing that finally takes him down isn't a demon with wings or a prince with a clever trick. It's the small, human, everyday compromises he never thought to guard against because he was too busy guarding against everything else. The text itself, according to legend, was written by Solomon afterward as a kind of confession, so that the secrets of these demons would not be lost to his people. A warning manual, written by the one man who had every reason to believe he was untouchable, and turned out not to be. The Testament of Solomon never fully disappeared after its first telling. Pieces of it echo through later traditions, in talismans, in protective seals, in stories whispered across very different cultures that somehow all kept circling back to the same image: a king, a ring, and the things bound beneath the earth, waiting. Maybe that's the real reason this story has survived for 2,000 years. Not because people were afraid of demons with strange names and stranger weaknesses, but because every culture, in its own language, has tried to answer the same uncomfortable question. Solomon conquered every demon in that legend except one, the one he carried inside himself the entire time. Asmodeus never took his throne. Thrones can be reclaimed. What Solomon actually lost was quieter than that, and far harder to get back. The clarity that had made him Solomon in the first place.
What happens to a man who is finally given the power he always wanted? History has a quiet way of answering that question more often than we'd like to admit. See you in the next video. Bye.